Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely fascinating topic that sits right at the very foundation of our society: how we structure our educational institutions. We're going to unpack a concept that goes way, way beyond just getting good grades. We're talking about building better communities from the ground up. All right, to kick things off, I want you to just picture your local school. Think about the classrooms, the desks, the students sitting in them. Now ask yourself, who is actually sitting in that room? For a really long time, education has operated under some very specific, often separated categories. But what happens when we completely tear down those walls? What does a truly inclusive classroom actually look like? Today, we're going to challenge those preconceived notions of who belongs where and explore a model that brings everyone under the exact same roof. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Defining inclusive education. 2. Principles of the process. 3. Educational aims and objectives. And finally, 4. The broader societal impact. Starting right off with Section 1, Defining Inclusive Education. So, the source material defines this as a fundamentally modern approach. It's a complete shift from the old way of doing things. Instead of separating kids based on their specific needs, it puts children with disabilities, those with learning difficulties like, say, dyslexia or maybe hearing impairments, right alongside neurotypical children, all in the exact same room. The main takeaway here? They aren't just sharing a zip code or a school building, they're actually mainstreamed, sitting at the exact same desks, learning directly with their peers. Now, what's really interesting here is the stark contrast with the past. Historically, the standard was a segregated approach. If a student had a special need, they hit a literal wall and were separated into an isolated facility. But the inclusive approach, it completely dismantles that wall, mainstreaming all students into the same colleges, universities, and classrooms. And hey, this isn't just some fringe idea. This is a massive global paradigm shift. In fact, this exact inclusive principle was formally adopted at the World Conference on Special Needs Education. It's a worldwide push to ensure every student learns together. Moving on to Section 2, Principles of the Process. Inclusion isn't just magic. You can't just miraculously throw a bunch of diverse kids into a room, shut the door, and expect perfect harmony, right? It takes actual engineering. According to our sources, it's a highly intentional process. First off, it's continuous. It definitely doesn't happen overnight. Second, it requires a super flexible curriculum. Basically, you adapt the material to the student, not the other way around. Third, you've got to actively focus on removing barriers to make education accessible to literally everyone. And finally, training. Teachers and students absolutely need ongoing, appropriate training programs to actually thrive in this kind of shared ecosystem. Which brings us to Section 3, Educational Aims and Objectives. A massive, and I mean massive, objective of this framework is fostering deep, genuine empathy. Think about it. When you learn next to someone who experiences the world completely differently than you do, it inherently sensitizes you. The source emphasizes that this setup actively teaches neurotypical students to truly understand those differences, not just to tolerate them, but to actually appreciate diversity and cultivate a really profound respect for their peers. By bringing everyone together early on, the system is actively building empathy as a core life skill, right alongside reading and math. And this brilliantly illustrates how the rigorous academic skills on one side are perfectly balanced by crucial social skills on the other. Yes, students are absolutely pushed to excel in complex math, critical analysis, and high-level debate. But in an inclusive classroom, learning how to effectively work with people who are different from you, and yes, even utilizing proper greetings and manners, are considered equally vital educational milestones. It's essentially a holistic approach to building a well-rounded human being. Now, let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, the broader societal impact. So why does this all matter for a society as a whole? Well, the source outlines this fascinating ripple effect, showing how inclusion scales up. It all starts at step 1, with the individual. A single student gains a much better, more realistic understanding of their own unique strengths and weaknesses just by seeing the diverse capabilities of their peers. Then, in step 2, as those self-aware individuals grow up, entire communities achieve true universal education. No one gets left behind in the margins. And ultimately, step 3, because the system is forced to be highly accommodating, the overall quality of education fundamentally improves for absolutely everyone. It's like they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And the cool part is, the results of this improved education spill directly out of the classroom and into the streets. The source makes a really direct connection between classroom inclusion and creating responsible citizens who actually fulfill their constitutional responsibilities. Because when students learn to respect diverse peers in a classroom, they translate that into respecting their shared nation. They're more likely to respect national symbols like the flag and the anthem. They actively protect the unity and integrity of the country because they feel deeply connected to all of its people. And they safeguard public property, understanding that it belongs to their entire diverse community. This brings us to what I think is the ultimate climax of the source material. This is the profound takeaway here. Inclusive education isn't just some strategy for getting better test scores or making schools more efficient. No, its absolute highest aim is the complete eradication of discrimination. By tearing down those physical and social walls between children, the goal is to create a rock-solid foundation of universal brotherhood. It's the realization that a truly united society literally has to begin with a united classroom. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. Think back to that image of your local school from the very beginning. Knowing what we know now about the sheer power of inclusive education, how it builds empathy, skyrockets educational quality, and fosters this universal brotherhood, ask yourself, is your community truly learning together, or are there still invisible walls that need to come down? Thanks so much for joining me today to unpack this vital topic. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.